Hello, and welcome to another episode of Stories with Miss Heald. Today we're going to read Chapter 2 of Twitch by M.G.Leonard. Chapter 2 is called Worms for Food. 3 months had passed since Twitch had saved the injured pigeon. Walking out of school with the bird in the box had cost him a week of detentions. He'd made an enemy of Jack Cappleman and become more of a social outcast than he already was, but it had been worth it. Twitch had named the pigeon Scabby on account of his numerous grisly injuries and built him a pigeon loft from a tall, thin wardrobe that he'd found at the dump. The pigeon's wounds had healed, and he was happy to hang out as long as he was being given free food and shelter. To Twitch's delight, a female pigeon took a shine to him, and they began courting, eventually building a nest in the loft. She was a pretty bird with a slender white neck and dark eyes set in a charcoal face. He called her Maud, after his grandmother. Within a week of Maud moving in with Scabby, their nest boasted 2 eggs. From Scabby and Maud's eggs hatched Squeaker and Frazzle, 2 chicks that began life dodo-shaped and pink with a fine yellow down. Twitch had watched with amazement as, over 10 days, they grew bigger, darker, and stronger. Now, more than a month after they'd hatched, the squabs looked pigeon-shaped. Today was the last day of school before the summer holidays, and the sun shone white-hot. The tarmac under Twitch's feet felt sticky as he hurried out of the school gates, the deep green of the distant hills calling to him. The air was charged with the electricity of freedom. The summer holidays rolled out before him like a magic carpet of perfect possibilities. No school, no homework, and pigeons to train. "Oi, Twitch, duck!" Something hit his back. Twitch looked round to see what it was. On the ground was a silver takeaway container. Beside it lay scattered bones and charred flakes of brown skin. Peals of laughter instinctively made Twitch drop his chin to his chest, letting his hair cover his face. He picked up his pace, jamming his hands into his pockets, his shoulders rising to his ears, knowing that if he ran, they would chase him. "You hungry, Twitch?" someone shouted. "Want to eat a friend?" Another silver container hit his leg and bones flew. A girl, her name was Pamela Hardacre, made quacking noises, and then they all joined in. A mean choir of ducks, honking and hooting at him. "Duck, get it?" Jack called out. "He stuck Twitch, so you'd better duck!" Another silver missile hit the back of Twitch's head. He felt the scratch of crumbs slipping down the collar of his school shirt and shivered. "Yeah, I get it," he called out, putting one foot in front of the other, telling himself that each step he took him closer to home. "Then why aren't you laughing?" There was a hint of menace in Jack's voice. "It's a joke. Where's your sense of humour?" "Leave me alone," Twitch replied wearily. But he knew Jack wasn't going to let him walk away from Year 7 without punishing him for one last time for the pink scar above his cheekbone. "Oh, is Corvus sad?" Jack taunted. "Does a dead birdie make him want to cry?" There were murmurs and titters as the other children caught the scent of blood. A crowd was building. It was jarring to hear Jack use his real name. People only did that when he was in trouble. Twitch was a nickname he'd earned because he had a nervous habit of blinking, but he'd always liked the name because his granddad told him that a twitcher was a bird watcher with an interest in rare birds. Everyone called him Twitch. He even thought of himself as Twitch. Someone grabbed his rucksack and yanked him backwards. Jack stepped in front of him. "You should thank me." "What for?" for bringing you a snack." Jack held the remains of a duck leg in his right hand. He threw his left arm around Twitch's neck, grabbing him in a headlock. "Eat it," he growled, thrusting the leg in Twitch's face. Twitch turned his head away, struggling. "I'm vegetarian." Jack pushed the scaly duck leg against Twitch's lips. "Eat it." "Get off," Twitch muttered through clenched teeth. The smell of the meat was making his stomach turn. He didn't want it near his mouth. "I'll puke." Jack let go as Twitch retched. Someone swiped at his feet and Twitch fell to the ground. He rolled away, ending up on the grass verge beside the pavement, trapped between Jack and the peeling silver trunk of a birch tree. "Oh, Twitch loves the birdies too much to eat them." Jack stood over him, sneering. "If he loves birds so much," Pamela's mocking voice called out, "why doesn't he eat what they eat?" "Yeah," Jack's face lit up. "Worms." He glanced over his shoulder at the watching faces. "Find me a worm. Twitch is hungry." Twitch tried to get up, but Jack put a foot on his chest. "Oh no, you're not going anywhere." Vernon kneeled, pulling a wooden ruler from his bag, and started digging in the turf. Terry dropped to his knees beside him. "Found one," Vernon said, yanking a wriggling pink spaghetti string from its cool, dark hiding place. "Yummy, yummy," Jack said, holding out his hand for the worm. "Open your mouth, Twitch. There's a good baby bird." Vernon handed the worm to Jack. Everyone leaned in to see if Twitch would be made to eat it. A girl called Tara DeBerry, who stood beside Pamela, went pale. "I can't watch," she muttered, her hand over her mouth. "This is too cruel." "To the worm," Pamela laughed. With his free hand, Jack grabbed Twitch's chin and tried to prise his mouth open. Twitch shook his head from side to side. "Vernon, hold him," Jack instructed, and Twitch felt his hands lock his head into position. "Terry, sit on his legs," Jack smiled, pinching Twitch's nose and dangling the worm over his tightly closed mouth. "You're going to eat this worm, bird brain." "Hey!" a man's voice rang out. "What's going on?" And like a flock of startled starlings, the children scattered. By the time Twitch had sat up, Jack, Vernon, Terry and the others were pelting away up the road. A man wearing a white t-shirt under an open blue checkered shirt and a black leather trilby sauntered over. His knowing smile was framed by a close beard and his blue eyes twinkled. A chunky gold bracelet slid over his wrist as he reached down to help Twitch to his feet. "You all right, kid?" Twitch nodded. "They friends of yours?" The man had a lilt to his voice, which made Twitch think that he was Scottish or Irish. Twitch shook his head. "Enemies?" Twitch shrugged. "Yeah, I got picked on at school too." The man gave Twitch a sympathetic look. "Why the worm?" The man was definitely Irish. Twitch heard his mum's voice telling him not to talk to strangers. But she'd never said what to do if the stranger had saved you from having to eat a worm. He figured he should be polite. "I like birds. I keep them." "Really?" The man looked surprised. "What kind?" "Pigeons and chickens, but others nest in my garden." Twitch could feel himself blinking. He was uncomfortable talking about himself to grown-ups. "Right now we've got a pair of blue tits in our nesting box and the swallows come back every year." "Really? My favourite bird is a swift," the man said, looking interested. "Ah, the scythe-winged flight sleeper," Twitch said, then blushed. "That's what I call them, swifts. They can sleep and fly at the same time." "That's the one. Lovely little birds." The man gave him a look as if the two of them understood something that few people did. Then he made an exploding gesture with his hand. Mind blown. Twitch grinned. I'm just passing through Bridwell. I thought I might do a bit of bird watching whilst I'm here. Are there any good spots you'd recommend? A wood? That sort of thing? Oh, yes. Twitch was thrilled that his saviour was a fellow bird watcher. You should go to the nature reserve. It's called Avis Wood. It's got a mix of habitat and a big patch of wetland. It's part of a green corridor. A green corridor? Yeah, you know, a route for migrating birds. There's always a chance of seeing something good at Avis Wood. There are woodpeckers, bullfinches, and kingfishers too. Great. That's great, kid. Avis Wood. I'll check it out. The man looked over his shoulder as the sound of approaching police sirens interrupted his train of thought. Hey, a newsagent's, he pointed. I need a paper. How about I get you something sweet to take away the flavour of the worm in exchange for a few local tips? He extended his hand. My name's Billy, by the way. I'm Twitch. He awkwardly shook Billy's hand as they crossed the road. You don't have to get me anything. I didn't actually eat the worm. Billy pushed the newsagent's door open for him. In you go, Twitch. Unusual name, that. Grab yourself a chocolate bar. On me. Sugar's good for shock. It wasn't a shock, Twitch replied. They do it all the time. Even more of a reason. Billy pointed at the rack of sweets. Mr. Bettany, the newsagent, smiled at Twitch. The kindly man who wore a flat cap indoors and out employed him on Saturdays to do a paper round. Staring at the brightly coloured sweet wrappers, Twitch was torn between temptation and guilt. His mum would be cross if she'd found out that he'd accepted sweets from a stranger, but if he took them to his hide in the woods and ate them there, well, she wouldn't need to know. And Billy seemed nice. He was a birder like Twitch. Twitch missed having someone to talk to about birds. His granddad had taken him bird watching when he was little, but since he'd passed away, Twitch's expeditions had all been solo. He settled on a pack of fruit gums because they wouldn't melt and put them on the counter beside Billy's newspaper. He glanced at the headline, Robber Ryan on the Rampage. Below it was a picture of a person with a shaved head. Billy paid Mr. Bettany whilst chatting amiably about the weather and the state of the roads. See you tomorrow, Twitch, Mr. Bettany waved as they left. Outside, Twitch thanked Billy for rescuing him from Jack and for the fruit gums. You going to be okay getting home? Twitch's heart jumped. He knew he should be guarded about where he lived. I'll go home the back way. Mum'll be looking out for me, he lied, glancing at Billy between blinks. He wasn't going home, but he wasn't about to admit that to a stranger. Smart thinking. Billy tapped his head. Listen, I'm going to check out Avis Wood. Maybe I'll take a few walks, look at the birds. I'm travelling in my camper van. I was wondering, is there somewhere nearby, out of the way, that I could park? You know, he leaned down and said out of the side of his mouth, somewhere I don't have to pay. There's the bottom field of Patcham's farm off Bridvale Road, Twitch replied, frowning at this furtive request. He lets people park there sometimes. Patcham's farm. Cheers, that's very helpful. Billy winked conspiratorially. See you around, Twitch. Mind you stay away from those worms. He chuckled, lifted his hand in farewell, and sauntered off down the road. Twitch stared at Billy's back, watching him go. He felt a flash of guilt for being suspicious of the man, then grinned at the packet of fruit gums. The school holidays hadn't got off to a bad start. He turned, going in the opposite direction to Billy, heading straight for his secret hide in Avis Wood. And we'll find out more when we read chapter 3. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.